welcome to What's New. So tonight we have our mayor and our, what is
City
it?
administrator.
The city administrator. So whichever wants to talk, have at it.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you want to run through just kind of the nuts and bolts, and I can kind of.
Yeah, so Happy Welch was city administrator for City of St. Genevieve. You know, what we can do as a city, we can talk about an issue, but we can't advocate. So we're not advocating for or against.
Against, right.
The mayor can. The mayor can talk for it or against it. He's an elected official.
Oh,
But
okay.
being that I am with the staff, we're here just to follow through with with the decisions that are made by the board.
Right.
So one of the decisions they made was to promote a proposition called Proposition S, or Prop S, and it's to improve streets in St. Genevieve. We found through a study that we had Cochrane Engineering do that the number of streets are in bad condition. Which,
They are.
Yeah, and a lot of people know that they're in bad condition because we've heard the feedback on that. Other surveying that we've done, we've heard the feedback.
You know,
on
it's
that.
bounce.
Yeah. And we don't have yearly income that can equal the amount of work that needs to be done. So in alignment, and the mayor can go into more about this, but in alignment with trying to make some improvements that also are a part of our comprehensive plan, connect the city better from the 61 side, the 32 side to Progress Parkway,
Right.
easier access to the community center, to the water park, to that area of town. We've looked at needing to do some street improvements. So in addition to putting in extended streets, we need to redo the streets that are in the city because we have some that are in crumbling shape. And if they aren't fixed, they will just deteriorate completely.
Right. Over the winter, it'll be worse.
Yeah. So the board has put on the ballot for August 6th, Prop S, that is a bond issue. It's called a general obligation bond. And that bond issue is for $10 million. And we're looking at wanting to spend about $3.5 million for this road extension, and then about $6.5 million for or $6 to $6.5 million that are on the regular streets in the city. So if you're in areas like International Subdivision, so Scott Street, LaRose,
Oh, okay.
Audubon, those streets are some of the worst that we have. We've done all of Lynn, but we haven't done the connecting
Right.
streets. We've got streets on the north end of town. Let's say, portions of Leahy, portions of Memorial. There's neighborhoods that need it. Jefferson Street needs it, especially between Main and Second Street.
Right.
9th Street. We have issues with 9th because it is a connector to the school, and the buses take that route. So we've paid out of our funds, our reserve funds, we've paid to have engineering done to make that street smoother, a little bit wider. It's more transversable for the buses and for the regular vehicle drivers. So working in concert, we can try to make all of these improvements. And after discussing it with our engineers, we've determined we can probably get it all done in about 2 years' time. It would be an intense operation, but everybody would see improvements quickly, and they would feel that their tax money is going to a good cause. Now, because of the amount, because you can do bond issues that are no tax increase. In this case, we have a tax increase of $51.28 per $100 assessed valuation, and that's to help pay it off in 20 years. Because we felt that a smaller amount, which was about $6 million, would not cover enough city streets that it would be worth the residents' time for us to do that. So we made the decision, or the board made the decision, to put on the ballot this $10 million bond issue.
So it will be
51.28 per $100 of
Per
assessed
$100.
value.
100,000.
Or 100,000.
100,000.
per
assessed value.
100,000.
100,000 assessed value. Yeah.
That's really a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
It ends up being
100,000.
27 cents per $100 assessed value.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. So
Now, are they going to just overlay the streets?
no.
Correct.
These now are the streets that we need to do some comprehensive work to. So you're looking at
You're gonna dig them
I had to dig
in.
down
Good.
and then rebuild them.
Yeah, because the patchwork just comes right out.
Yeah. I think we've done all the streets that we can just easily overlay. We've kind of worked our way through those. So now we're looking at some major improvements. So to help pay for the bond issue is not just Prop S. It's also going to be transportation fund money, it'll be general fund money, and our capital improvement fund. So there are a number of funds that are contributing to this to keep the cost down.
So what is the transportation?
That's a half-cent sales tax.
Oh, okay.
So like the tax that you pay for the city's general operation, there's also a capital improvement tax and a transportation tax. So we're dedicating both of those to help pay for this so that we can see the improvements. These are things that apply to those funds, and we can help pay that off. And we can pay it off sooner, we will, because we'll be, eventually getting back into the need of getting more roads done. And if this is successful and we do it right, we should have good streets then for a long period of time. If we maintain them, we have to maintain them, and we have not been doing a good job of that probably for 20 years or more. That it just hasn't been kept up with well.
Right, exactly, yeah. And I think too, when they patch those potholes, they just throw the stuff in it. They don't dig out around where it stays in there. They just put it in and then it's gone.
It depends on, sometimes it's cold patch, so that's stuff that you just toss in and put it in there because you're looking at it more temporary than you are permanent. It's the bigger asphalt patching with hot mix. Those are the permanent ones. So I think what you're seeing a lot of is just the cold patch.
Cold, okay.
Yeah.
Because those don't last.
No, and it's only temporary, and that's what you said.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think we have we brought in Alliance to take over the streets and the parks as well as the water and sewer. And I think they're making those improvements. It's been incremental. A couple of years now they've been doing this. We've been seeing improvements, but it takes time, and they have to get their rhythm together as to what they want to do, get enough people. They just became fully staffed probably 3 months ago. So now they've got all the people that they need to make the operation work well. And I think we're going to see the benefits of it as we keep moving along.
Okay.
So that's the Prop S. We've got information out so that people can understand what streets we're looking at.
And where do they find that information?
Find it on our Facebook page.
The cities?
Yeah, city's Facebook page. We can, where else? They're out and about in a number of different areas. The chamber's been sending information out as well about it. It's in the
Yeah,
newspaper.
because I've only saw the signs along the road.
Right.
I haven't read any.
Right,
Yeah,
so you
there's
should-
infographics at the community center as well. They're up on all of their display boards.
And there'll be an ad in the newspaper next couple of weeks also outlining Prop S.
Okay. So that ought to hit a lot of people.
It ought to, yeah. And we haven't laid out a complete plan as to which streets are the first, second, third, because we have a priority list and we have a secondary list. And some of the priority is going to require that we also dig up for water mains.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
have to coordinate that. So that's part of what our plan would be is if it's just a street, we'll get into it as fast as possible. If it's a water main project, that'll take a little more time because you have to dig it up, get the water main replaced, and then
Right,
go back
right.
and patch
And a
those.
lot of our water lines need,
Need replacement.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think everybody understands that they're very old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a good system. It's just like all public works, it needs to be maintained, and you're seeing it everywhere where they talk about the amount of improvements that need to be made.
Right, right.
We're just a part of that.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a pretty good description of it. Yeah. What you've said.
So the mayor has more details on the background of getting to this point and why we feel that it is important for the whole project for Prop S to benefit the city and benefit city residents.
Okay.
So Happy can't ask for your vote, but I can, and I'm going to. So I'm going to advocate for this project. But we feel And this has not been a rush to this project by any stretch. This has been an ongoing discussion, I would say. Well, at least since I took office, I know, but even prior to that, I know that this has been long discussed. And I think the streets portion of it, to focus in on that discussion's been going on a lot longer than I've been in office. And
sure.
it's been going on, as Happy mentioned, probably every bit of 20 plus years. And if you drive around our city, you would know it. You feel it.
And
Right.
I think people will be more likely to vote for it because of the streets.
Absolutely. And we knew going into this project that it's in two phases, right? So part of it is to help our city grow a little bit, whether it's by population, which we think, with our proposal, the proposal includes infrastructure that would provide for development where right now we're targeting 152 new single family homes. And the city's engagement in that project is designed to increase the affordability of those homes. Drew Christian was here tonight at our regular meeting, and he spoke to some of the surveying that was done of the residents and the feedback that they received. And housing was at the top of that list. And right below housing, it wasn't just that, it was affordable, the affordability of the housing. So it wasn't just a lack of options or a lack of rooftops. It was, I can't find housing that I can afford.
Right.
And we all know, especially post-COVID, that real estate, the cost of building a home has gone up. The cost of acquiring a home has gone up. Material costs have increased substantially.
Exactly, yeah.
So when the city kind of went into this endeavor, we partnered with the IDC. And to take you back to probably 2018 or 2019, the IDC and the IDC is the Industrial Development
Right.
Corp that was founded some years ago. And they're an arm of the county, but their main goal is to provide growth. And it could be in industry, it can be in residential. Really, it's just to help provide growth to the community.
Right.
They did a housing study, and they did a study of the employers. The employers were set to turn over 1/3 of their workforce in the next 3 to 5 years. That's pretty substantial. And that's just in our community. So you're talking about a lot of new retiring, and you're talking about a lot of new hiring. And the retirees, if they live here, who's to say they're going to leave? So homes aren't necessarily opening up. We needed new places to house
Right.
new employees. All of the employers, by and large, have stated that, hey, we have no problem attracting employees to work for our companies, and we have no problem convincing them that St. Genevieve is a great place to live. We have a problem telling them where they can find a house to buy in St. Genevieve.
Exactly, yeah.
And that became the issue, and it became the goal of the IDC. And it really was one where my day job as a banker, it was one that I was actively engaged in because I was part of those conversations, and I was part of conversations with a number of different people that were trying to move here and couldn't find a house. Because I get to see that side of it too, where I've got people that actively, they can afford to live here, they want to live here, and they can't find anything to buy or build here because there's just no options. So the IDC and the city have been trying to find a solution for that. The IDC did a lot of the legwork for the city. They were able to engage in a land swap with the Archdiocese that swapped ground with the Catholic Church. So city owned some ground on the south side of Progress Parkway, and more or less we just swapped with the ground that you would know, which is more or less just to, I guess, the southwest of the Cemetery Valley Catholic football field, kind of in that low-lying area there. And the idea being that would be an ideal spot for development. You're going to connect that side of the city out towards Progress Parkway, where you provide an artery through there. Also walkability from our side of town, this downtown historic part, to the community center, to all the space that's out there, the walking trail, et cetera. So connectivity of the city, and then also providing some much needed housing relief for not only just people that are looking to move here. We have residents that are living here now that want to find a new house.
So are these going to be one family structures
They will
or?
all be single-family homes.
Single
There are no mixed use. There's no apartment, duplex. As we currently have it, as the current layout sits, there would be no multifamily housing. It would all be single-family, standalone residences.
So like that at Valley Spring? or-
Correct. And I'm glad you brought it up because if you think about housing development within the city, that was the last one. And they're out of lots. As
Yeah.
of now, there are no more
Yeah, I think
lots.
there's 2 out there.
There's 2.
Yeah.
And I believe there's a house going up right now on one of them,
Yes,
which is
there is.
great, But after that, there's really no more room out there to add any more
Expand it,
housing.
yeah.
Yeah. And within our city, we are in a unique situation where we are pretty well landlocked. We don't have a lot of space to push out our boundaries. So growth within the city is hard to come by. And to have 49 acres within the city limits that we could turn into affordable housing would be a huge boom to the city.
Yeah,
And I don't know how long you've been doing this show or how long you've lived in St. John. How long have you lived here?
I have lived here since I was 9 years old.
Well, I won't
How old am I
I
now?
won't date you on that.
I don't care.
But I can tell you that probably within a range of about 100 residents, I don't know that we've grown since that time.
Probably
from a
not.
population standpoint. And when your population stagnates like that, where does additional revenue come in to feed the coffers to
Right.
tackle the projects that we need to tackle, which is the streets?
And the city has grown so much over my lifetime.
Absolutely. And we are seeing increased traffic. We're seeing an increased interest in our tourism activities. I think our tourism director's done an amazing job of funneling people back into the national park designation is certainly not hurt matters.
Right.
And that's a huge thing for our city. But to capitalize on it, all of the main arteries into our city
Are bad.
are rough,
Bad.
right? And your best foot forward every time you're welcoming somebody into your city is a pothole that's not exactly what we're looking for. So the idea is kind of twofold, and really it's expansive, is if we can increase population, we can broaden our tax base, we can increase the amount of money that the city's collecting just by an increase in residents.
Right.
That economic development spirals into retail dollars. More people means more money spent within your community. Because guess what? If I work at the hospital or the school district or Tower Rock or something like that, right? An employer like that. If I work for one of those employers and I live in Farmington or I live in Festus or I live in Perryville, when I punch the clock and I slide down the dinosaur and I get in my car and I head, where do I go? I go home. And guess where I'm grocery shopping? Guess where I'm dining out? Guess where I'm buying back to school stuff for the
And
kiddos?
that's another sad thing about our town. People are almost forced to go out of
100%.
town for not so much the food, but for the clothing and other.
Just the everyday essentials, right?
Right.
I think the comment was I can't find shoes, or,
Right.
or back to school shoes or undershirts, I think was the other thing that Drew mentioned, right? I think that was in the survey.
Yeah.
But the idea is once those families settle in a different community, those retail dollars by and large go with it. They're spending those dollars on the weekend in those communities. They're spending those dollars in the evening, and they're spending all of that money in those communities. Those
Right.
dollars are going out of our town. We get those people settle in our town, those retail dollars stay home. And every major retailer, every major, let's just use fast food too, but dining establishments, right? They're counting traffic. They're looking at residents. How much traffic is going by this location? Is it worthwhile for us to put in a location here? Does it generate enough traffic for us to justify that expense? And the feedback that we've gotten so far is mostly no. There's not quite enough there. Well, what happens with more people? Well, that's a lot more traveling back and forth and pushing that population a little bit more. That can snowball into that. And it is a good chicken and the egg argument, right? Are we missing out on retail because we don't have enough people, or are we missing out on people because we don't have enough retail? I can't answer that because I just don't know. But I can tell you that if we do increase the population, I think the retail comes with it. But what we do know is that even those dollars, wherever they may be, those families are still going to spend those dollars locally.
Right.
If for nothing else, out of necessity, and not to mention just property tax, right? I mean, that's a big chunk of this as well. We're hopeful that by broadening that tax base, by increasing that population, by pumping those economic dollars back and keeping them local, that allows us to get in front of the streets. Now, we're hoping that this investment, this $6.5 million investment into the streets, is going to put us out in front of the issue, because right now we are chasing it. And I can tell you, and I know Happy can agree to this, because he's been doing this longer than I have been. But I think you can agree, we are chasing that. We are falling further behind with every year. And it's not because of lack of effort. It's not because of lack of want to. It's not because of lack of acknowledgement. And it's certainly not lack of expertise on Alliance's part. They're ready to go to work for us. We just have to give them the tools. We have to get out in front of the issue. We have to give them the budget necessary
Right.
to stay on top of these. The other thing, we got to fix the streets in the proper way. You mentioned overlaying, and you hit it right on the head.
That's awful.
We have been overlaying to the point where we have ruined the engineering that was originally, that street was engineered in a certain way, and with it, water runoff. I mean, all that was designed in a certain way. So overlaying over time has destroyed the engineering that was originally
definitely.
done. And that water is now moving into places that it never should have gone. And I think the residents that Happy highlighted up on the international subdivision, Scott, Audubon, LaRose, Austin, they would 100% agree that over time, and this problem has gotten worse,
Oh, definitely.
and it's not going to get any better unless those streets are, I mean, we're going to have to go back in and re-engineer. And with that, we hope that twofold, I mean, not to mention they're going to get better streets, but we hope that alleviates some stormwater issues there, because we know it's bad right now.
It is.
And I can tell you, we had a pretty significant rain event last week. I didn't drive through there, but on that particular day, but I can guarantee you that it was going everywhere.
Right.
And I've heard from a number of residents that live there, and it's a problem. It's only going to get worse if we don't get out in front of it. So that list of streets, while not all encompassing, is the start of what we're hoping to accomplish. And we're going to get to as many as we can, but we know the ones that we really need to hit. And we understand that if we were just left to use our regular operating budget, that would take, just the high priority ones would take 10 years.
If we could get to them in time, because you're looking at probably $2.5 million of necessary improvements, and those are the high priority streets.
Definitely. People don't like taxes, but if you don't pay taxes, you can't operate.
Right.
Exactly. And we labored heavily on this decision. I mean, in the council, we discussed a number of different iterations. We understand that we don't want to hit anybody with an additional tax burden right now.
Right.
Inflation has hit everybody pretty hard. I mean, anytime you go anywhere to buy anything, it is far more expensive than it was last year and the year before and the year before.
Definitely.
So we don't take that lightly, and we are not trying to unnecessarily burden our citizens. That's not the point. We just feel we are at a point now where if we don't do something drastic, that this problem is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And if we can get out in front of it in those 2 years, and that may bleed into 3. I mean, let's be honest, weather and things play a role in it. But if you said, hey, we could fix these in 3 years, that would put us out in front of the issue a little bit more. That puts us out in front of the problem. So now we're not necessarily reactive in our way, we're proactive. We can actually be intentional about where we go next with our dollars, because we don't have this major looming project over our head, because we may have one of those streets may encompass our entire budget for a year in what we could use for all of our streets. Mm-hmm. And actually, I would probably say that some of those would be more than 1 year's worth of what we can set aside right now with our regular operating budget to fix. So getting out in front of those, we can get those off of our radar now. They're done. Now we can focus on the others, and we can be proactive about how we use those dollars. We can actually set our own timetable as opposed to us just having this backlog of streets that are just, it's the elephant in the room. It's there all the time, and we know it. And not only just fixing them, but fixing them right. So that way they last. That way the streets are designed to operate, and the stormwater runoff and things like that are designed to operate in the way that they were engineered to operate. I think it'd be a huge win. Now, I like we said, I understand the tax burden of it, and we did not want to do that. We considered multiple iterations of this. For us to not go to the taxpayer for this, for us to not do that, we would just be scratching the surface on the money that we could get to fix what's really out there. And of course it would help. It would. But we were kind of stuck between, well, the no tax increase is kind of a half measure. This is a full measure. This is us putting our weight behind a project that could have a really long lasting impact to our infrastructure. And I would add too that this is not unique to St. Gen. This is not a unique problem to St. Genevieve. I know we like to think, it's easy to think that your streets are worse than everybody else's street when you hit the same pothole every day. And I hit the same pothole every day when I take my son to school. I do. It's on 5th Street. So it's there.
Right.
I know it's there.
And
I hit it every morning anyway. Hit it every morning anyway. But I think it's easy to think that when you're driving your own streets, it's easy to think that they're far worse than every other town. But, SEMO Regional Planning, they just went through a huge analysis of all of our neighboring communities down, Perryville, Cape, Fredericktown, a lot of our peers, and they identified that as a need. Crumbling infrastructure is a need across the board. So this is not unique to us. Now, other communities, maybe they're doing a little bit better job than we are. It remains to be seen. I'd have to drive their streets every day to really know.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not unique to us. And guess what the other main issue on every other communities, one of their weaknesses was, and one of their opportunities was housing, and it was affordable housing. So we're trying to tackle two issues that we know are a hot button issue that a number of communities are trying to solve right now. Don't know how they're trying to solve them, but we tried to formulate our own plan. And like Happy said, if we can knock this out, if we can get some growth happening within our city boundaries where we're actually getting that economic impact, who's to say we couldn't pay off that faster? Who's to say we couldn't remove that tax burden faster? Right. It's certainly on the table. We have to see.
So would the land out there that's going to be sold for lots, would those streets all be included in this? Or?
Correct. So our proposition is it's all streets. This has nothing to do with any other utilities that may be need to brought out to the subdivision. We do have a separate plan in place for that has no impact on the taxpayer. Okay. So that's nice for them to know also. Correct. So, I mean, in all told, for the engineering for that project, we're looking at $5.5 to $6 million to engineer all of the infrastructure for that new subdivision. We are only coming to the citizens to try to fund about half of that, a little more than half of that. And it's the streets. The streets are the more expensive part of it. Right. But we just want to make sure they're done right. We do want to be in control of that development. We want to know, we want to know that these streets are going to be laid out the way that we feel like works best for the design, works best for the citizens. So how long do streets usually last? Great question. Happy. I mean, it's probably a lot to do with what's driving across them and all that. I understand, but
so an asphalt street is good for about 10 years, and then you have to start doing your maintenance. And if you can do good maintenance on it, you'll get 20 years out of it, and maybe more, depending upon the type of traffic that you have on it. A concrete street can go 50 years. If the base is done correctly, you'll have sections that will have to be replaced. It's kind of inevitable that... And especially with all the mines around here. Well, it's the concrete trucks that drive over it for the new subdivision that are taking concrete for new foundations. Right. So you have all of that heavy traffic. It just kind of, it just wears out, but it's usually just sections. So concrete is the best way to go if it's maintained correctly. If you remember Parkwood, before we fixed it, you'd go out there and you
Oh,
would run like
definitely,
this across the whole thing. Like,
There's a lot of streets you do that on.
Yep,
and there's still sections of Point Base that are just like that.
Yeah.
But if they're maintained, if you do your crack sealing, if you clean out, if you keep them clean, keep them if you keep watch over them, they'll last the 50 years, and that's the way to go. That's probably what we would look at for those improvements in that subdivision. Most new subdivisions do concrete streets. Most of the ones
So it'd be
I've-
nice to build all the houses before you put the street down.
Yeah, look,
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
I don't think it works like that,
Trucks are
but
gonna be
you
out full
could
of trucks. You get trucks.
Well, and people kind of grumble about not having a road to their house. I don't know why.
I wonder why, yeah.
But these streets, right? And Happy hit the nail on the head too, as well. You know, we're talking about putting in a long-lasting solution out there, not something that's going to become a burden on the city to maintain. It's going to be something that will have life, that we can get through a number of years before we have to worry about
Right.
it deteriorating. And you know, I know with more people comes probably more problems, maybe, but you know, with that, we're hopeful that the dollars that pump into our budget, we can really start to make some improvements across the board. I mean, tourism could definitely, use a more robust budget. Our tourism director was here explaining all the things that he wants to do, and he's got an unbelievable vision. It's a very clear vision, and he's got a lot that he wants to tackle, but
Right.
it takes money. Our parks could sorely need some extra funding. These are all things that I'm not saying all of our problems are solved with this, but this could start to free up our budget a little bit to start to allocate some more dollars to some different places that we haven't been able to before.
Right.
Because I mean, our annual operating budget is 5.7-ish.
The newest budgets are going to be between 6 and 7 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I believe last year or heading into this year, it was about 5.7 or close to it. So if you think about the undertaking just in the streets portion of this, so we're talking 6.5 million, that is greater than our annual operating budget.
You're
I mean,
right.
that we're talking about a very substantial number. And, you know, to somebody that's asking, hey, why this, why that? Well, why don't you just pay for it? We'd love to just pay for it. If we could,
Right.
we'd love to just pay for it. Unfortunately, this is a problem that has gotten to a point where we can't just pay for it. And we operate and we stretch budgets as far as we can. But to take out an undertaking like that, to go after this problem and really attack it the way we need to, you're talking about needing more than what our annual operating budget is to do.
Definitely.
So it could be, I mean, it really could be this could have a huge, long lasting impact on the community in a number of different ways. And we wanted to make sure that we obviously have been pushing to try to figure out a way to solve the housing issue and to bring more people into St. John. But we wanted to make sure we weren't neglecting our current residents that have needs, and that one of the biggest needs that they've identified is that they want to see better streets. They want their commute to be a little bit easier on
Right.
their back or their shocks. But they wanted that, and they need that, and they deserve that. And this is a package that, a financing package, an infrastructure package that we feel like checks both of those boxes. And our commitment to the current residents to tackle their existing needs is, we're talking about a 2/3 to 1/3 split just about between the new and the existing. I mean, we're allocating the majority of these dollars to fixing what we already have. And yes, we've got the new shiny subdivision. We hope a lot of our current residents buy a home there, but we hope to attract some new families and like I said, broaden that tax base, get some more money working through our economy. And we think that could snowball into more retail. We think that could snowball into more industry, more rooftops, that businesses attract to places like that.
Right.
People places that are growing.
I think you're also looking at, we need more people to help volunteer for all of these organizations that we have that help those locally. We're running out of people to do the volunteering for, let's say, Jordan Fit.
Because everybody's getting old.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Right.
It's an elderly community.
That's such a good point. And you know, I've been a Rotarian for a long time, and I know that you've served in Rotary clubs and Lions Club, and I think the Lions Club is dealing with the same thing that the Rotary Club's dealing with, is a pretty aging volunteer base, and also a tired volunteer base, right? That
They do
you've got
so
the
much.
same, you know,
People do, and that's
they're
in
doing
every
the same
organization.
events,
Yes,
and
yes.
eventually you get to a point where you're either worn down by it, or you just don't have the time, or maybe you're retiring and your life is taking you in a different direction, and you just don't have the ability to do it
Right.
anymore.
And
And
I-
we're seeing it all the time.
And I think another thing is, I know there's a lot of things they can't buy in St. John, but shop local and shop in our city to support it, and therefore more sales tax will be collected.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't, I don't know if they don't understand it, or if they think, oh, I'm just going to shop up here, so I might as well go to dinner and all this. While they're out, they might as well do everything.
And that's human nature. That's going to happen.
It is.
Great. Go enjoy yourself wherever you're going, because we want people to come here and enjoy
Right.
themselves and do the
Right.
same thing.
Yep.
But what is available local, people need to shop here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And we feel like, and those business owners have said as much. They've told us, and I think that they probably were very responsive in the feedback that we're working off of. I mean, this isn't just something that was dreamed up. This is all based on feedback that we've received from employers, business owners, and just residents. They are the ones that providing the direction for our council. We're taking that information and we're trying to put it into action for them to try to solve those problems.
And that's great, yeah.
So that's kind of the rundown on Prop S. We're hopeful, but we would appreciate a yes vote on August 6th. So
And we'll
it's
have
coming up.
to tell everybody to go on YouTube and watch tonight's What's New to find out about it.
Right. So to get the details on it, we ask from our point of view, just go out and vote on the 6th. I mean, that's an important day to get out anyway. It's primary election. There's going to be other issues on the ballot, so it's important to get out and get your
Right.
vote heard.
100%.
Yeah. Lois, thank you. Thanks
Well,
for having
thank you
us.
guys for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for rearranging your schedule to
That's
fit us
quite
in
all
too.
right.
We really appreciate it. We kind of threw a curveball at you.
Yeah.
Put
Well,
a meeting on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I knew it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I mean,
last
if you want
month,
to
so
start
we're
coming
good.
to our meetings, and you could be like the Phil Donahue of these
Oh, yes.
council meetings.
Yeah.
Walk through the audience with a microphone and ask
What's your
questions.
opinion? What's your opinion?
That's right.
Sometimes you wouldn't want to hear it.
Maybe.
Okay. So thank both of you for doing that, and we need to promote what's new so people can find out what was talked about and to pick up the brochure. Are there brochures out
They're out and
around?
about, yeah.
Okay. Pick up a brochure and read it,
Get on
and
our Facebook page.
Right.
We've got it in other locations, and again, it'll be in the newspaper, so people will be able to see it there.
Yep. We have a number of flyers sitting in the bank lobby at Bloomsdale Bank if anybody wants to swing by and grab those. And then I would encourage anybody that's looking for more information too. I mean, the aldermen are they're very supportive of this project. I mean, this was a unanimous decision.
Oh, I would
And they have all the info that anybody could ever need at their fingertips too. So if anybody's curious or, has a question that maybe we haven't responded to tonight, or just a lingering question of some sort, reach out to your alderman. They can certainly, that's what they're there for.
That's
And they would
right.
welcome the conversation. I promise you. I know that they may say, well, you're creating more work, but they know what they signed up for.
Yeah.
And that's why they get paid the big bucks, right? But they're more than willing to talk about the topic. I mean,
and that's great, yeah.
it's a huge deal for us. So we're pretty excited and hopeful.
I think another place to put a bunch of these is down at Common Grounds.
Okay,
Oh yeah.
A lot of people go in there for coffee.
yep.
Yep.
Several
Good idea.
different groups go. I mean, like they're busy until almost closing time.
Oh, that's
It might
great.
shut down being busy around 11, but then they have the lunch
Yeah.
come in after that. But
I know they close at 2.
they're quite busy.
Open early.
Yeah,
They are
in the
busy.
morning. Yeah, they're pretty
Consistently.
busy. Yeah.
I would agree.
And it's a great place, a great asset to our city.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I say our city, but I live in the county.
That's right.
But I still,
This is where you identify.
I grew up in the city.
There you go.
Right. And we've talked about that. A lot of people identify with St. Genevieve. Even if you live in the
Right.
county, you identify with this city.
Right, exactly.
And so you want to make sure that it stays vibrant, stays,
Right.
Yes.
we keep things maintained.
Because you do everything in, even if you live in the county, you still do everything in the city, so,
Yep. It's the hub.
yep,
Yeah.
it is. Okay, well,
Cool.
hope you get a lot of questions, and
I think we will.
I think, hope the vote goes through.
Appreciate
for
it.
sure. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And thank you. Okay, Charlie. Say good night.